She and her consort are serenaded with haunting hymns in Tamil, perhaps the living descendant of the language of the Indus cities. The great goddess, the Indians say, is the cause of all. She is peace, all forms of faith, ever in all things, and pervading all creation. And now the last and perhaps most fateful invasion of India took place. Soon she could be depicted as a naked black female, submissively offering her riches to Britannia. India entered the cataclysmic epoch which has left few native cultures of the world intact. The era of colonialism. The natural resources of India were plundered. Her trees and animals, which Ashoka had protected 2,000 years before, were thoughtlessly consumed. The Indians, bearers of the world's oldest civilization, were treated like children by people who saw themselves as the superior race. In fantastical costumes and invented ceremonies, the rulers of a small island 5,000 miles away glorified themselves. How easy it is to forget that there was an India before the British came, which is still there now they've gone. And for all the achievements of the British, their most fateful legacy was to open up India irrevocably to a wider world. Our search has brought us back finally to Allahabad and to the family house of the Nehrus. In this room, Indian Democrats met to discuss what India's future paths should be. Their hopes and fears have been echoed time and again in our modern world. How far should the Western model be followed? Capitalism, democracy, Western science. How far can indigenous traditions work as the basis of a modern state? Nehru, the first Prime Minister, thought European models were the way forward and came to believe in a complete break with the ancient past. His friend Mahatma Gandhi, whose bedroom this is, had faith in India's own path, in self-cultivation, in local economies and village democracy, in Ashoka's principle of non-violence. For him, the greatest legacy any civilization has is simply itself. The modern state of India, conceived and argued over only half a century ago in this house, in fact, rests on a great tradition extending back thousands of years with an amazing cultural continuity which has reasserted itself time and time again, and which brings the ideals of the Buddha and Ashoka and Akbar converging on this house like thought lines. India has been prodigiously gifted and creative in every field of human endeavor. If we were to choose one characteristic legacy, and it would be a Western choice, then perhaps it is that India placed the spiritual quest at the center of life in the way that no other civilization did. But India also had a deep-rooted secular tradition extending back as far as the time of Ashoka. And this tradition deeply impressed Nehru and his friends as they attempted to frame a new constitution for their new secular state. They were also inspired, as we can see from the books on Nehru's shelves, by the egalitarian tradition developed in the West through the revolutions in England and America, in France and Russia. Although some of those ideals were at odds with the great tradition. And both those great currents went into the modern state of India. Which way the great tradition will go in the 21st century, history cannot tell us. But it's worth recording that in the 1990s, the greatest audiences on television in India still came to watch the Gita, the most ancient and the most authentic tradition of life in India, with its assertion that moral enlightenment is the goal of every citizen in life. And here too, in the Nehru House in Allahabad, a thumbed boyhood copy of the Gita lay at Nehru's bedside from childhood to old age. So perhaps it is still true at the end of the 20th century, true for nations as well as people, that we may know our ends by our beginnings. Outside the Nehru House, the climax of the Kumbh Mela has arrived. The greatest gathering of people ever seen on earth are waiting for dawn, when led by the naked renouncers of this world, they will bathe in the sacred river, in Mother Ganges, the symbol of India's age-long civilization.